You know, I'm thinking the only thing more cursed than the women's tag team titles in WWE may well be the New York Jets. Tonight was the debut of Monday Night Football, which of course sends a shiver down WWE's spine every year when they have to go head-to-head with the NFL. They get a reprieve over the course of the summer. But tonight was the debut of Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers was at 18 seasons, I believe, with the Packers, making his debut as the brand new quarterback for the New York Jets. Did not even last a full 5 minutes before being carted off the field. That's about all he lasted. Vinny Testaverde all over again. How many years ago was that? Was that 98? 99? Star quarterback, first game of the season. Down. I think in that case it was a ruptured Achilles. Hopefully it's not an Achilles injury this time, although it's not looking good. But do keep in mind, he gets $75 million guaranteed, no matter what happens. So I think he'll be okay. I don't cry for the man. I think he'll be okay. They still won the game. They beat the Bills. They still won the game. They won it in overtime. So it was not a total loss. I don't know how they pulled that off. I was too busy watching what we saw at the end of Raw. But somehow they were able to pull it off. But shifting gears. Tonight was the final Monday Night Raw. I should just end the sentence right there. We'll throw a party. The final Monday Night Raw of the Vince McMahon era. Not that he's going away completely, but this was the final Raw under the ownership of the McMahon family. Okay, this company goes back 70 years to the very first show that was promoted under Capital Sports back in 1953. Raw debuted in 1993, and tonight was officially the final Raw under total control of Vince McMahon. And so, I believe it is quite fitting that the parting shot, the final image of this last Raw of the Vince McMahon era, is of Nia Jax. Yes, Nia Jax and her hole are back. My hole! That's right. The hole is back. The hole has been filled here on Monday Night Raw. Fightful says that she's been signed for over a month. If you remember, she was released last year, early in the year last year. But she did come back and make an appearance in the Women's Royal Rumble match earlier this year in January. And look, I have been saying that Rhea Ripley has had very few challengers. They need more women on these shows. They need to beef up the women's rosters on Raw and SmackDown. I've been saying it. But my God, this is an example of be careful what you wish for. This is not what I had in mind. And there's a certain irony to the fact that we have been hearing all of these reports about Kairi Sane on her way back to WWE, no longer with Stardom. She's wrapping up her dates. In the next month or two, we're expecting Kairi to be back on television. We don't know what brand, but supposedly she's on her way back to WWE. What must poor Kairi be thinking now that she sees that Nia Jax is coming back? She's gonna go back to Stardom and be like, wait. I want to come back now. I've changed my mind. I wish I had the list in front of me, the list of victims of Nia Jax. What has changed? Have things really changed that much since she was last in the company full-time early last year in 2022? I sure hope so, because all I remember is just match after match, incident after incident, examples of people getting hurt, and just sloppiness, all this stuff. And now she's back. So we're going to find out. We're going to see if this is the new and improved Nia Jax or not. She's getting a second chance. Hey, I'm all for second chances. But this is not what I had in mind when I was looking at new competition. Who could step up and be new competition for Rhea Ripley in this women's division? Now it looks like we may be in for Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. Maybe a three-way match for the women's championship coming up possibly at Fastlane. Because they closed out the show tonight with Rhea Ripley defending her championship against Raquel Rodriguez. This was a rematch from Payback. No Dominik Mysterio. He was banned from ringside. And the match was sort of plodding along as honestly a lot of this show did tonight, which we'll talk about. But they're having their match, and they end up outside the ring, and that's when Nia shows up out of nowhere. It's almost like she never even left. It's like, oh, there's Nia Jax. And she gives Raquel a Samoan drop on the floor. Eventually Raquel makes her way back in the ring. Rhea puts her down with Riptide, retains her championship. Then we get the confrontation in the ring between Rhea and Nia, so they make it very clear that she's not part of the Judgment Day. She's not here to be Rhea's bodyguard. She's here to go after the Women's Championship. Oh, joy! Nia Jax challenging for the Women's Championship. There is a certain, it's just an appropriate flair about this being the final Raw of the Vince McMahon era in its entirety, and that is the parting shot. It actually feels very appropriate. There it is again. Unbelievable. Kevin Owens and Jey Uso. Kevin Owens does not trust Jey Uso. Jey Uso does not have very many friends here on this show since he got traded from SmackDown over to Raw. Meanwhile, the Judgment Day, they continue to woo him. Gunther and Chad Gable look like they're on their way to a fourth battle. We don't know when. Could be Fastlane, could be Royal Rumble, could be WrestleMania. But they're definitely having at least one more match. That's a good thing. And as I look back on this show tonight, the best thing on the entire show, the best match on the entire show came between Drew McIntyre and Xavier Woods. They had a very good match on this show. This show tonight, boy, I mean, this was just an absolute slog to sit through. This show had no life to it whatsoever. It's almost like they knew tonight was the debut of Monday Night Football, and they just surrendered. I mean, this show just limped along for the entire 3 hours, and there were a couple matches that were really good on the show. McIntyre and Woods, there was a 6-man later on with Imperium, taking on Tommaso Ciampa and Alpha Academy that got really good in the final minutes. So there was some good wrestling on the show. But again, we get good wrestling every single week. We get good wrestling from WWE. We get some good wrestling from AEW. There's so many hours of television. It's tough when you have 3 hours. You got to keep it interesting. They didn't do that tonight. They didn't do that tonight at all. This show was very boring. Very slow, very boring. But, again, I can't get over that. I can't get over that ending. It was the ending that nobody saw coming, least of which not me. But yeah, it felt like they mailed it in. That's what this show felt like. They licked the stamp, they licked the envelope, they dropped it in the mailbox, and they mailed it out. That's what this show felt like tonight. But this is your Monday Night Raw review. It is September 11, 2023. I am the Solomonster. We are only about 50 subscribers away from 75,000 here on this channel. I thank you for that, so please go ahead if you are not already subscribed. Go ahead and hit that sub button. I would appreciate that. Super chats are open. Oh, I'm sure you'll have quite a bit to say about this show tonight, so get those comments and questions on in. Of course, you guys know, you'll see the messages. We'll hang out and go through them a little bit later on. And maybe we'll even get a guest appearance from Nia's Hole. Maybe she'll join us. And hey, Firepan, I want to say thank you for gifting those 5 memberships earlier. Channel memberships are open as well. So let's start from the very beginning here. I feel like that Titanic meme. It was 84 years ago. Let's go back to the very beginning. Main event, Jey Uso opened the show. Came to the ring. Big reaction for Jey. He said it was good to be out of the bloodline and on his own on Monday Night Raw. And that's about all he was able to say before he was interrupted by Kevin Owens. Owens came down to the ring. He said, Jey is now on the KO show. And he said that he's been where Uso's been. He said that there are a lot of people who don't want him on Raw. And he mentioned that, Riddle and McIntyre, we'll talk about that later. Riddle, McIntyre, he named them. Said they weren't alone. He said Cody Rhodes wanted him there. Sami Zayn welcomed him with open arms last week, but that's about it. Owens said that Jey had to prove to him that he's not the same guy he was when he ran with the bloodline. So Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominik Mysterio, they all walked out. No Rhea Ripley. She was in the back getting ready for her big main event later in the show. Balor said the Judgment Day respects Jay. Priest said that Owens doesn't speak for the locker room or for the Judgment Day. And he said that he knew Jay would need some time. Said Dominik said no to the Judgment Day about 1,000 times before he finally joined, and now he's the best he's ever been. Dominik tried to speak. They drowned him out. He told Jay not to let Owens question his character. Priest said there was supposed to be a match with Sami Zayn here tonight. He questioned where he was. Owens said that Sami wasn't there, but he said he was, and he was dressed for a fight. Jay said that he would fight with Owens, and he pointed out to Owens that KO said that he had to earn his respect, so he called for him and Owens to team up tonight to face the Judgment Day. And Owens at first was very skeptical about this, but then he said, let's do it. Jay super kicked Dom. Owens tackled Priest. Jay tossed him out of the ring. Owens and Jay stood tall, and the heels regrouped at ringside as they went to a commercial break. Another Kevin Owens match with the Judgment Day. I don't even know what to say. I really don't. You know, we joke sometimes over the years about this show, Groundhog Day. Feels like Groundhog Day, right? Great movie. It's just Groundhog Day with this storyline every single week. How many permutations of this? How many combinations of this can we possibly squeeze into a 6-month period? You know, sometimes they'll swap somebody out. Rollins will be in there. Maybe it'll be Rollins and Zayn. Tonight it was Owens and Jay. Sometimes Cody is in there. But there's always some combination of Owens and Zayn against the Judgment Day. And tonight was no different. Tonight, we actually had Kevin Owens teaming with one of the men that he wrestled in the main event of WrestleMania this year. So they dropped an Uso in there against Finn Balor and Damian Priest. The only surprise, this is the same old song, but the only surprise here, they didn't main event with it. Usually this would be the main event to close the show. Instead, they flipped the script, and this opened the show for a change. It was Kevin Owens and Jey Uso against Finn Balor and Damian Priest, complete with Michael Cole asking the question, can they coexist? That's what he said. Can they coexist? We got a can they coexist story here to open the show. Balor offered Jey a handshake. He rejected it. A few minutes into the match, Jey hit a dive out over the top rope onto both Balor and Priest. And Jey went for a top rope splash on Balor, who got the knees up. Owens checked in. He set up for a cannonball on Priest. But he was clutching at his bad knee. And he was able to hit a tornado DDT on Damian. Balor took a middle rope brainbuster from Kevin Owens, which got a big reaction. He had the pin, but Damian Priest broke it up. Priest stuffed a stunner from Owens, and Jey tried to super kick Damian, but he moved. And Jey Uso super kicked Kevin Owens in the face. Of course he did. Priest and Owens fought to ringside. Balor hit the coup de grace on Owens, and he pinned him. After the match, Michael Cole said that what happened with Jey seemed like an innocent mistake, but people don't trust him due to his history. Jey tried to talk to Owens. He just glared at him, and he limped off to the back. The match was good. I don't mind them furthering the tension between Owens and Jey Uso. We kind of talked about this last week in the review, where if Sami starts to get closer to Jey than he is with Owens, and he's kind of buddying up to Jey now that they're on the same brand, they're on the same page, it could lead to Owens eventually splitting away from Sami Zayn, and that could be a match at WrestleMania next year. So that may well be where the story eventually goes. I don't know if they've mapped that part of it out that far in advance. So they can further the tension between these two guys. But again, the idea that we are still watching Kevin Owens in tag team matches against the Judgment Day. Can we please? Ari Emanuel, because I'm sure he's watching. Ari Emanuel, I beg of you, please. Let's get away from this. All right? Let's go grab some lunch, shoot the shit, we'll have a conversation. I have a whole full list here of all the matches we've had over the past few months, going back all the way to May. I'll show you. I got the receipts. I got the proof. I talk about it every week. Let's move away from this. Please, for the love of God. After a commercial, Jey approached Owens in the back, and he apologized for the miscue. Owens was not happy. He was not accepting his apology. He was not buying any of this. he told Jay to go find his new bloodline and told him, oh, they're in the Judgment Day locker room. You can go find your new bloodline. And he told him to dye his hair purple while he's at it, and he walked off. What if Owens joins the Judgment Day? This is Ken DeMan. Oh, man. I don't even want to think about that. I hadn't even given any thought to that idea. Let's have Owens or Zayn then join the Judgment Day. And then they'll be the ones wrestling Cody and Seth every single week. It's the same shit. So we got a video package showcasing Gunther's win over Chad Gable last week, cementing himself as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. Suck it, honky tonk man. And yes, they did show Gable's daughter, Briella, again in the front row, bawling her eyes out. She's a celebrity now. All I know is they better have her sitting in that front row on the night that Chad Gable finally beats this man who wins the Intercontinental Championship. We need the full circle moment. Remember, we had the Goldberg's son in the front row when his father came back at Survivor Series all those years ago, and he brought him into the ring with him, and he celebrated. He paraded him around the ring, right? Sunberg. We remember Sunberg, right? Okay, well, Chad Gable's daughter, she deserves her happy moment too. So I look forward to that moment. Now we come back live. Kaiser and Vinci, who are dressed like the Men in Black, they exit the Mercedes-Benz that just arrived at the venue. And then Gunther emerges in a black suit himself. He was in a very celebratory mood as all three men entered the building. We had The Miz against Akira Tozawa. Total squash. Miz pinned him after 3 skull-crushing finales. So look at that, he got a win. How about that? Another win for The Miz. What is that, number 2 on the year, I believe? I believe it is actually his second win of the entire year. I'm pretty sure. This was his revenge for Tozawa's fluke win over him last month. So this was a tune-up for his match with LA Knight. They're having their rematch on SmackDown this Friday. No LA Knight on the show. LA Knight, by the way, there are conflicting reports about LA Knight, because the report from Mike Johnson of PW Insider, who is very reliable and trustworthy when it comes to news, generally speaking, he had reported last week that the deal was either done or in the process of being finalized for a new deal for LA Knight, a new long-term contract set to possibly be 5 years with WWE. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful reported earlier today, not so fast, that they are worlds apart, basically, on money. So they have not come to terms. They are still talking. They are still negotiating. Apparently, he has about a year and a half left on his contract, so he's signed through at least part of 2025. So it's not a situation where his contract is up very soon, in the next few months or anything like that. They got him locked down until 2025. And apparently there's a difference of opinion on the money aspect of the contract. So it is not a done deal, but I think they'll get the deal done. Look, I mean, if you're LA Knight, you're 40 years old. You're finally getting the push of your career. And they want to tie you down to a long-term contract. And look, you don't know how much longer you have. Is it a full 5 years? Is he going to go 10 years? Is he going to get hurt and only have a few more good years? Is that what's kind of weighing on WWE's mind? They don't want to commit that much money to this guy? I don't know. I don't know what's going through their mind. All I know is that he's super fucking over right now, everywhere they go. And apparently his t-shirts and his merch are flying off the shelves. So if ever there was a time to make an investment in this guy, now is the time. I think they'll get the deal done for an amount that he is satisfied with. But it is not done yet. So backstage, Jackie Redmond interviewed Shayna Baszler, and Baszler said that Zoe Stark surprised her when they wrestled in their match. Usually when she locks someone in the Kirifuda clutch, they go out immediately, but not Zoe. Chelsea Green showed up and said that she was looking for a tag team partner because Piper Niven still was not medically cleared. And Baszler said, how about this? How about you could meet me in the ring, and I'll show you limb by limb exactly how large the gap is between us. So Chelsea turned around, and Piper Niven happened to be standing there. And Chelsea said that she was happy to see her, and she knew that she was coming back tonight. Niven then snatched one of the women's tag team belts away from her and said that she was medically cleared before walking away. And before all of you say, oh, see, the curse has been lifted. We talk about the curse. We thought that she was hurt. We didn't know what the nature of the injury was. Why wasn't she medically cleared? Don't put the cart before the horse here. I am not willing to sit here and say that the curse has been lifted. We have to give it time. We have to see what happens. She's medically cleared now. Hopefully she stays that way. But you never know with these things. I still would not want to be anywhere near those tag team title belts. Just give them to Aaron Rodgers. So Kaiser and Vinci were out to the ring next. This was the championship celebration ceremony for Gunther, now the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. Kaiser introduced him. Gunther came to the ring, and he took his place. They had a platform in the ring with, they had like the Roman columns, one on either side of him, and or pillars, whatever you want to call them, right? We talk about the pillars in AEW. Gunther had one pillar on one side, one pillar on the other. This man, let me tell you something. He's out there. He's in his black suit. He's got dress shoes on, no socks. This guy's out here thinking he's Ricky Starks. So Gunther starts to boast about being the longest reigning champion. He said it meant a lot to him. And of all the legends who held that title before him, he just wanted to say that they meant absolutely nothing. And he said that he has elevated the title to heights never seen before, and he was running out of competition. And that brought out Chad Gable. Gable said they had a main event last week for the ages, and he was still feeling it this morning when he woke up. I'll bet. So Gunther invited him into the ring. And Gable said that he saw the look in Gunther's eyes after their match. Gable knew that Gunther realized that Gable had given him a better fight than anybody else during his entire reign. But he also saw the look of his entire family sitting in the front row. He saw the tears on the face of his oldest daughter. And that was because of Gunther. Gunther wouldn't know what that felt like because you have to be a father to understand. And Gable said that it lit a fire under him that won't burn out until he makes this right. And Gable said that he beat Gunther once. He would do it again. He didn't know when. He didn't know how he would get the opportunity. But when he did, he said, I swear to God, I am winning that championship. And I swear to God, my daughter is walking out with a smile on her face. Boy, can you imagine Gunther chopping his daughter? Imagine the heat. Come on, man. Take a bump. Anyway, Gunther wondered if Gable really wanted to drag his family around just to watch him lose again. And he also accused Gable of using them to gain sympathy. He called him a disgusting, terrible father. Gable attacked him. He got swarmed by the rest of Imperium. They put the boots to him. Here comes Otis. And Otis chucked Vinci and Kaiser from the ring, but he got cut down by Gunther. Gable tried saving Otis. Gunther knocked him down as well. And so Imperium continued the beatdown until Tommaso Ciampa ran out with a steel chair and he cleared all the heels from the ring. So it's pretty clear. It was clear to me last week, but I could see where maybe some people thought, okay, that's it. Right, that was the third match. Gable got his shot. He lost. It's time to move on. But this confirmed there will be at least one more match. We will be getting Gunther and Gable Part 4. What's less clear is when that's going to be. Because when this segment was over, it didn't feel to me like this match was really being set up for Fastlane. The way that Gable was talking and he said, I don't know when, I don't know how I'm going to get the opportunity, but mark my words, I will get that opportunity. That sounds to me like maybe they're going to do a story where he has to earn his way back to the front of the line. You know, he's got to rack up wins. He's got to beat a whole bunch of people. And eventually, maybe in a few months, he'll become number one contender again. They'll circle back to the story. I don't know. That's just kind of the vibe that I got when this segment was over. That maybe we're not going to get the match at Fastlane. I would like to see the match at Fastlane, whether it's, again, a straight wrestling match, if they go with the 30-minute Iron Man match idea I talked about this weekend. But I'm okay if they want to drag this out a little bit, because this is one of the best stories on the entire show right now. And Gable is just the perfect underdog babyface. I thought he was the perfect underdog babyface years ago in the King of the Ring tournament. Remember they did the King of the Ring on TV, and it came down to him and Baron Corbin in the finals. And ultimately Corbin won. Even if you go back then, long before the Alpha Academy stuff, that I don't remember if that was before or after the whole Shorty G debacle, but even back then, every match that Gable had, and he wasn't being pushed in any meaningful way, okay? He was not a star. He was not getting star reactions from people, but the bell would ring. He would have these matches in this tournament, and by the end of those matches, he had the people in his hand. He was the perfect underdog babyface, and we know he could work, so he was able to win the fans over. Well, fast forward to now, he's more over now than he was then, but he gets over on his work because he's so good in the ring. Just that style that he works, he's like a little bulldog in there. So I think the people, they want to see him succeed. They want to see him do well. And I think they want to see him be the one to take the Intercontinental Championship from Gunther, who has that big smug look on his face, you know, when he's standing up on that platform in the ring tonight. I hope it's Fastlane. If they want to push it back, maybe the Royal Rumble. And I talked about this weekend as well. You open the Royal Rumble, Chad Gable and Gunther Part 4. Intercontinental Championship, big stadium show because they run stadiums now for the Royal Rumble. Doesn't have to be WrestleMania. Not everything has to pay off at WrestleMania. Gunther has bigger things in his future for WrestleMania. Bigger than the Intercontinental title. There's no shame in him dropping the title to Chad Gable, coming right back later in the show and winning the Royal Rumble match. And guess what? He's now punched his ticket to one of the 2 main events at WrestleMania next year. And nobody cares. Nobody remembers he lost to Chad Gable. But for Gable, it would be huge. It would be the biggest win of his career. It would mean a lot for him. Gunther doesn't lose shit. He moves on to bigger and better things. So I'm okay with that too, if that's the direction they wanted to go in. But again, it doesn't have to be WrestleMania. I know some people were suggesting that it doesn't have to be. He should be in a bigger match on the card than that. And I don't think you need to drag it out that long. Some of these stories, Roman and Cody, Jimmy and Jay, you already have stories that are going to clearly be dragged out until April. They're doing the long-term storytelling thing all the way to WrestleMania. Not every single feud, every single match has to be dragged out to WrestleMania. So the sooner they do that match, the better. But whenever they do it, Gable needs to come out on top. So earlier today, Xavier Woods, he approached Drew McIntyre in the back. And Woods wondered, why were you talking trash last week about Kofi? And McIntyre said that maybe Kofi should be a man and come talk to him himself. Woods wondered if McIntyre was just jealous that Kofi won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania in front of 82,000 screaming bodies. Which WrestleMania was that? I could have sworn I was actually at that WrestleMania, but there weren't 82,000 people at that WrestleMania. I don't know where he pulled that number out of. He pulled that number out of Nia's hole, I guess. I don't know where he got it from, but there were not 82,000 people at WrestleMania that year. But, you know, he won the title in front of all these people at WrestleMania, Kofi Mania, this big emotional moment when he beat Daniel Bryan. Meanwhile, he said McIntyre won his WWE Championship in an empty performance center. And I've always felt bad for Drew about that because he was finally getting this big push, right? He got fired. He went out. He really built his name up on the independents and Impact and all the different places that he worked. And he got rehired by WWE. And now he felt like a much bigger star, right? He wasn't just the 3-man band guy. So he comes back. He works his way up. He's in that Royal Rumble match. He Claymore kicks Brock Lesnar out of the ring. And everybody's losing their minds. And it's like, okay, this is his moment, right? This is finally, this is going to be his big moment at WrestleMania. And then everything gets shut down. And he's wrestling Brock Lesnar in front of nobody. The only person there is Paul Heyman at ringside. It's an empty warehouse. Beats Brock Lesnar 4 minutes, becomes champion. He's posing. There's nobody there. It was sad. And he had to be the champion in the face of the COVID era. And I think he unfairly by a lot of people gets blamed, for the people who didn't really like that period or felt that WWE was just very blasé or whatever. It doesn't fall on Drew McIntyre. You can't put all that on Drew McIntyre, right? The circumstances were what they were. But he got screwed, out of his big moment at a big stadium winning the championship. I don't know if he'll ever have that moment. I really don't. It's not going to happen next year. I can't sit here and tell you that at WrestleMania 41 or 2 that Drew McIntyre might, not go in there and win a championship. Maybe he will. But I actually kind of like that they brought that up here, because I could see that as being something that he resents. Like, legitimately resents the fact that he was deprived of his moment. So he's told Drew, it keeps you up at night, doesn't it? And McIntyre said, look, I don't want to hurt you. But he promised that whatever happens tonight would not be an accident. So the match was set for later in the show. Jackie Redmond elsewhere was interviewing Tommaso Ciampa in Alpha Academy. Ciampa said that Adam Pearce advised him to make the most of his opportunities. So he did. And Gable and Otis said that this was far from over. Otis suggested a 6-man tag team Carnage match. Gable asked Ciampa if he was in, and he just walked off, and Gable assumed that that meant yes. Then we got the match. Drew McIntyre against Xavier Woods. This right here. This was the sleeper match of the night. Woods, he's trying to use his speed, and he's hitting, quick punches and a chop to the chest, and out of nowhere, Drew hits his Glasgow Kiss headbutt. Woods goes down. Drew picks him up like nothing. He's tossing him across the ring with ease. Woods sidesteps. Drew flies out to the floor. And Woods dove through the ropes. Drew caught him, though, and then tossed him aside like nothing over the announce desk. We come back. Both men are on the top in the corner. And Woods got off a sunset powerbomb. Then he went back up to the top and hit a gigantic diving leg drop for a near fall. So now Drew he's pissed. Belly to belly, a second one, neck breaker, big kip up. He calls for the Claymore. He goes for it, but Woods hits a super kick instead, gets a near fall out of it. So Woods tries for another super kick. Drew, though, catches the foot, hits a huge chop. He tried for an Alabama slam. Woods, though, got a victory roll, only a near fall. Kick to the side of the head, Shining Wizard, cover. Again, only a near fall. So Woods throws a right hand. Drew throws a right hand. They go back and forth. Woods hits the ropes, ducks under, and Drew ends up catching it with a Claymore kick, covers him, and gets the pin to win the match. And as McIntyre is leaving and he's backing up the ramp, the camera's on him, and you can see him telling Woods it didn't have to be this way. This is a great match. And, it's easy to forget how good Xavier Woods is. We haven't seen New Day a lot. They only recently came back. Kofi was hurt. And so Woods got a little vacation of his own. I know he was doing some other stuff because, he has a lot of different responsibilities. So we haven't really seen too much of them recently. And when we do, it's, a lot of comedy stuff and goofy stuff. But he had a chance to go here in this match. And I thought these two worked really well together. McIntyre definitely giving off more of a heelish vibe in this match. There was no Matt Riddle on this show. So let's talk about this now. There was no Matt Riddle, who has been teaming up with Drew. Drew has been the reluctant tag team partner. He really doesn't want to have anything to do with this guy. I can't say that I blame him. But the reason that there was no Matt Riddle on this show, I'm assuming he would have been on the show otherwise, because why wouldn't he be? He wasn't on the show tonight. He was supposed to be on some live events coming up later in the week, and he is no longer scheduled to be on those live events. They have not said why. But there is a pending investigation. There's actually multiple investigations going on. There's an investigation going on with the officers over at JFK Airport here in New York. There is a parallel investigation going on internally in WWE. This, of course, is to say nothing of the investigation that, I don't know if it's still ongoing or not. I guess no longer. I guess they rendered their decision in AEW. That's why CM Punk is out of a job. All these investigations. That's almost like they could start their own crime TV show here with some of these wrestling promotions. They went to India. They flew overseas. McIntyre, Riddle. So it's a long flight, about 19 hours. Riddle flew back, and this was the Superstar Spectacle show that I talked about on the podcast this weekend. That was on Friday. He flies back, and he posts a message, and it was not up for very long. He deleted it, but he posted a message on Instagram with a photo of one of the, TSA officers at the airport. Just took a photo of the guy, put the guy's photo up with this message. He said, "Nothing like being sexually assaulted by an officer and harassed at JFK airport." He said, "No means no. Just because I'm nice doesn't mean yes. Asshole. Don't know their Twitter or Instagram handles, but I took pictures. Normally I'm like, whatever. But today was really weird and uncomfortable, and they made a point to make me feel small and useless. Definitely one of the most uncomfortable travel days I've ever had. Thanks, NYC. You're so progressive and accepting." So that sounds terrible, right? When you initially hear that. TMZ had a story that came out not long after this. And it said in the story, Matt Riddle claimed that a New York City airport cop sexually assaulted him during a confrontation. And while he seems to have taken it back because he deleted the message, he took the message down pretty fucking quick. And the photo. It says, while he seems to have taken it back, an investigation is now underway. The WWE star posted a shocking allegation on Sunday, taking to Instagram to throw up a photo of a Port Authority police officer at JFK and attaching a scathing caption. And again, it gives a description of what I just talked about. It says, now, as far as what led up to this and what exactly went down, we have some answers. Law enforcement sources tell the Port Authority officers got a call for a disorderly person who was deplaning, and they met him in the terminal. As it turns out, that person was Matt Riddle. We're told the cops talked to Riddle, as well as other witnesses, and he seemed apologetic in the moment. No police report was filed, and everyone was free to go with that incident. It's because of this that our sources say the Port Authority was shocked by Riddle's claim, as from their view, nothing went down to warrant such an accusation. Still, we're told the department is taking his claim seriously, and an internal probe has been launched. The fact, now, Matt Riddle has had just bizarre incident after bizarre, and I'm not even talking about the leaked photos and leaked videos of him with his fucking sexual escapades. I don't give a shit about that. And frankly, if there's somebody else leaking his stuff, that's fucking terrible, and that's a horrible thing. But that's not even what I'm talking about. We're not talking about other people leaking personal shit of his, which there's no excuse for. He just can't get out of his own way. Every few months, there just seems to be some kind of incident. Former girlfriends and porn stars are taking to social media, lobbing allegations against him, that he sexually abused them and did horrible things to them, or that he's just a terrible person, and going on these, diatribes and posting messages about all these awful things about him. And he ended up in rehab at the end of last year. That's why he disappeared from television. He went to, I think it was drug rehab. So I don't know if it was just drugs or drugs and alcohol. Obviously, if these reports are to be believed, he's off the wagon, since apparently it was bad enough that he caused an incident and the fucking cops had to be called. So it's Matt Riddle that we're talking about here. And Matt Riddle himself has had allegations levied against him, I believe, by multiple people. And they're doing an investigation. We'll see. But I said this on Twitter yesterday. The fact that he quickly deleted his message, and then we come to find out that he was the one who evidently was in a bad state coming off the plane and was being disruptive and all this other stuff. You put two and two together, it's like, all right, you kind of get an image in your head of what may be going on here. So he took that initial message down, hasn't said anything about it since. All I know is this. I'm sure they have cameras all over that airport. They're doing an investigation. I'm sure they're looking at whatever footage there may be. They're interviewing witnesses. They're talking to whoever they need to talk to. He better hope that they don't have certain footage that, may end up making him look even worse than he already looks. I don't know what this investigation is going to find or how long it's going to take, but it doesn't make him look good. Because, again, this is not the first time that he has gotten involved in a situation like this. Now he's claiming that he's the victim. We'll see what the investigation says, but it doesn't look good. It looks like he may have been doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing either. And maybe he just decided to post some wacky shit to cover for it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this guy. I really don't. But if that is what's going on, and what he claims happened didn't really happen, which is why he took the message down, what a stupid fucking thing to do, especially at a time when 2 days later, tomorrow, this company is going to fall under brand new ownership. So at a time when there is a transition of power going on, and there are going to be new people and new bosses, higher up even than Vince McMahon, not very smart to be causing problems if in fact that's what's going on here. And my guess is that's what's going on here. But right now, that's just my guess. I guess we'll wait and see how this all shakes out. But it don't look good. Now, why he was not on the show tonight, and why he was pulled from these events or is not on these events this weekend, did the company pull him? Did he make the call that he wasn't going to be able to be on the shows? We don't know. That we don't know. But all I know is this. I made a prediction on the podcast at the beginning of the year to illustrate the fact that Matt Riddle has gotten into some shit. Back in January 1st, the first day of this year, one of my predictions for 2023 is that Matt Riddle would not last the year before being released by WWE. It's September 12th officially now. So we still have 3 months, okay? 3.5 months left to go. There's still time for that prediction to come true. I don't think that this situation is going to help his cause, but we'll see how it shakes out. He's got 3 months left to prove me wrong. But there's a reason why this company has been gun shy to push him any higher up the card than he has been. He's challenged for the championship maybe a couple of times. He had that match with Roman Reigns on television last year. But he hasn't been getting any kind of significant push in a very long time. There's a reason for that. The guy's a liability. He just doesn't know how to get out of his own way. So if they can't trust that he will not do something or say something or post something to embarrass them, then yeah, you're not going to see Matt Riddle wrestling for the world championship. You're not going to see world heavyweight champion Matt Riddle. That's never going to happen, which is too bad because no one is denying that he has talent. I saw that the minute I first started seeing him work on the independent scene and evolve in these different promotions, NXT. I thought he'd be a world champion one day for sure. He looked like a modern day Von Erich. But the guy is, again, he just seems to be trouble. At what point does the company just cut bait and say, you know what, we don't need these headaches anymore. It's time to move on. This could very well end up being it. But all of this happening at a time when the company is transitioning into new ownership, I don't think that bodes very well for him. So if they are looking for a way to write him off television, to go back to what I said before about how these heelish vibes I was getting off Drew McIntyre on the show tonight, I could think of one way to write him off television. If they're going to end up turning McIntyre heel, you want to bring Riddle back to TV, you have him turn heel on Riddle and beat the living fuck out of him. And write him off television. Use a really heavy injury angle as a way to get Drew over as this badass heel who just snaps. He's tired of all the jokes. He's tired of just all the nonsense. And that's how you write Matt Riddle off television. That's the last time we see him. If that's what it comes to, hey, at least get something out of it. At least try to get Drew McIntyre something out of it. Because for now, if Riddle's been pulled from television, he kind of fucks McIntyre over in a way. I don't see it necessarily as a negative for McIntyre. McIntyre does not need to be involved. It doesn't need to be RK Bro version 2. He doesn't need to be tied down with this stuff. So it might actually be in his best interest to move as far away from this stuff as possible. Then it was Cody time. Cody Rhodes was out to the ring in full suit for a promo. He asked the Norfolk crowd what they wanted to talk about, and then he said he wanted to talk about main event Jey Uso. But before he could do so, he was immediately cut off, interrupted by the Judgment Day's music, and Dominik Mysterio walked out with JD McDonough. And again, they drowned out Dominik, so we could barely hear what he was saying. They have to also be cutting the volume on his... I'm pretty sure they're cutting the volume also on his mic. So when he goes to speak, it makes it that much harder for us to actually hear what he's saying. I know Maze in the chat was at the show tonight and said that Dominik gets incredible heat, like legitimately gets incredible heat from the crowd. That doesn't mean that they're not doing things to make it sound even louder. But you could see, I mean, people are in the crowd, they're booing, and it's become like a fun part of the show. But I still think they're turning the volume on his mic down a little bit so that we can barely hear what he's saying. So he was happy that Cody brought Jey Uso to Raw because he said Jey Uso was going to join the Judgment Day. And when he did, Cody would look like a fool. Dominik said there was nothing that Cody could do about it, and he was flicking at Cody's necktie and pissing him off. Cody finally popped him in the face, and then he cleared JD McDonough from the ring when McDonough attacked him from behind. He hit the Cody cutter on Dom. McDonough rushed back into the ring. He ate a crossroads, and when Dom stood up, Pody put him down with the crossroads as well. Wade Barrett at the end of this segment said, man, I wanted to know what Cody was going to say. Well, let me tell you what it sounded to me like Cody was going to say. It sounded to me like Cody wanted to talk about Jey Uso because he wanted to talk about the fact that Jey Uso was traded to Raw, which means somebody is going to SmackDown, and I still believe that someone is going to be Cody Rhodes. But he got cut off. So this gets dragged out for at least another week because we don't need to find out right away. We may not find out for a few more weeks who that trade compensation pick is going to be going from Raw to SmackDown. He just never had the chance to tell us. And now that I've seen what their big plan was for Cody on the show this week, because he was not on the show last week, and they said Cody Rhodes returns. That was one of the things they promoted for the show tonight. Cody Rhodes returns to Raw, right? This is what they did with Cody Rhodes in his return on Raw. He came out. He told us what he wanted to talk about. He never got to talk about it. He hit a couple of moves. And that was it. We didn't see him again. We didn't hear from him again. That was the end of Cody Rhodes. It has become very clear to me that if he is traded, it cannot come a moment too soon because they have no idea what to do with him on Monday Night Raw. He is completely directionless on this show, which is one of the things that I feared, honestly, coming out of WrestleMania when I said that he should have beaten Roman Reigns, that they would have to find things for him to do to keep him occupied and to keep him interesting to the people who were cheering him from WrestleMania until the following year's WrestleMania. What are they going to do with him? We had the Brock Lesnar feud, right? Now, the final match they had at SummerSlam was great. That was the best match on SummerSlam this year. It's just that everything that preceded that and came before that was just stupid. Forget the fact that we never even got an explanation for why they feuded to begin with. In the end, Brock gave him his respect. But this just dragged on for months. And Brock, it's not like Brock was there every week. So most weeks was just Cody. He would have to carry the burden himself. And how many times did we have Cody by himself in the ring, just looking into the camera, cutting promos on Brock Lesnar, who wasn't even there? I mean, how many months was that? So now the Brock Lesnar feud is over. Brock's been gone now for over a month. They don't have anything for Cody Rhodes. The last pay-per-view, Payback, he was in a talk show segment. He has no obvious match right now for Fastlane, although after what they did here, maybe it's JD McDonough. But they don't have anything, good planned for him at this point for Fastlane. That's going to be back-to-back pay-per-views basically of nothing for this guy. He wasn't on the show at all last week, and then they gave us nothing tonight. If anybody needs a good change of scenery, it would be Cody Rhodes. Now, Michael makes a great point in the chat. What about Cody against Drew? Well, Drew would have to probably turn first. Drew did drop a little kind of breadcrumb last week when he was talking. I think Drew was the one backstage who mentioned Jey Uso, and People saying, Jay's a new man, he's turned a new leaf, and he might have to take it up with Cody. So that was maybe a little tease of something. It's possible. Cody and Drew could be a direction. But again, it's been months of this. It's been months of this. The man has had no direction. And the problem is, if this continues for much longer, you start asking the question, is he going to cool off? I think it's a credit to him that he hasn't cooled off. He comes out, he still gets superstar reactions from the people. They haven't turned against him. He's not getting mixed reactions like what started to happen for him in AEW. The people have stuck with him, but it's still only September. They got to get him to April. And in order to do that, you've got to have him do some interesting things or feud with some interesting people. So Cody and Drew, yes, that could be a direction. But I think moving him to another show and having him work with some of the people over there in the meantime until he's ready to step up to Roman Reigns would probably be for the best. Because, my God, what have they really done with this guy since WrestleMania? That was my fear from the beginning. You've got a year to kill. If you have some good ideas, that's one thing. They don't seem to have any. Backstage, McIntyre stopped Jey Uso, and he told him that he doesn't trust him. And Jey said, well, that's cool. McIntyre said that Jey can't stand on his own 2 feet after being with his brother and then the bloodline. Jey said that it sounded like McIntyre wanted to right some wrongs, and he suggested the two of them have a match next week, and McIntyre accepted. So it's going to be Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre on the show next Monday. We had Chelsea Green against Shayna Baszler. Baszler had a very brief confrontation outside, or a face-off, with Piper Niven, who was in Chelsea's corner. Nothing really came of it. Baszler blocked Chelsea's unprettier attempt and hit Ronda Rousey's Piper's Pit for the win. That is her new finish, by the way, other than the Kirifuda Clutch. She has now adopted Piper's Pit, but she gave it a new name. Michael Cole says that the move is now called, she's rebranded it, Exterminatus, which is kind of a weird name. But that's what she's calling it, Exterminatus. For some reason, it makes me think of Terminus from The Walking Dead. So Baszler and Niven, they got into a brawl when the match was over, and Niven was getting the better of it when Zoe Stark ran out. Very smooth slide into the ring. Super kick Piper Niven. And after Baszler took out Chelsea, Niven stood up and faced off with Baszler and Stark before ultimately backing down. You could hear Zoe, by the way, as Zoe was getting up in her face, she was basically yelling at her like, get out of the ring. So then finally she got out of the ring. I tell you what, though, I would rather see Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Piper Niven form some sort of new trio. Like this new badass trio of ladies on Raw. I'd rather see that than just have Piper Niven just paired off with Chelsea Green. But maybe that's just me. We got a Shinsuke Nakamura video package with subtitles. I'm glad that they've adopted this style going forward. I think it's the right way to handle these Nakamura promos. He asked if people would still sing Seth Rollins' song if they remember the things that he's done. And they aired footage of Rollins ending the Shield. Nakamura said the road to Seth's success is lined with the bodies of those who trusted him. He said Rollins believes the weak exist to be consumed by the strong. He called Rollins a manipulator, a deceiver, and a liar. He said Rollins brings shame upon his family and has no remorse. He said he will strip Rollins of his World Heavyweight title and expose the lies that he claims to stand for. He said he will challenge Rollins when he feels like it. Which brought Seth Rollins out to the ring for a promo. He danced his way out to the ring. He called himself a visionary. He called himself a revolutionary. What's so revolutionary about him? I've always wondered this. He comes out every week and calls himself these things, but like, what does it actually mean? So he's a visionary, he's a revolutionary, but he also admitted to being a manipulator, a deceiver, and a liar. All the things that Nakamura called him. But he was also a father, a fighter, and our World Heavyweight Champion. Said for a long time, he didn't know who he was. He surrounded himself and the authority with people who lied to his face. Then he tried to be who everyone wanted him to be, but that didn't work out. And finally, he figured out what everybody wanted him to be, himself. He said this, by the way, wearing a furry green coat and these just totally absurd glasses that made him look like just something out of a fucking Batman Joel Schumacher movie. But apparently that's who he is, right? He wants to be himself. He said that's why the fans loved him, not because he was a good guy or a bad guy, but because he was Seth freaking Rollins, and that's why they sing his song. And of course, everybody sang his song. Rollins said it was because of the fans that he could look his daughter in the eyes and be at peace with his past and proud of his future. But he said he did not come to Virginia to talk, he came to fight. He said management wanted him to slow down and told him he'd burn himself out, but he was a workhorse. He called out Nakamura for a title match last week, and Nakamura said no. Rollins said that Nakamura wanted to do it on his own terms and figured their payback match, maybe it took more out of Nakamura than he was letting on. So Rollins said there was no better time than right now in Norfolk, and he called out Shinsuke Nakamura. They played Nakamura's music. No Nakamura. Suddenly, we see on the big screen, he's in the back, and he is beating up, and I swear at first I thought it was Tommaso Ciampa. I saw a bald guy who kind of resembled Ciampa from the back. Then I could tell, okay, it's Ricochet. So I got my bald guys mixed up. But he was beating up Ricochet. And Nakamura said that he wanted to fight Rollins, but he thought Rollins was not medically cleared, so I already fought, right, Ricochet? Ricochet shoved him, so Nakamura beat him up some more. And Shinsuke apologized to Seth and said, I will take your title, but not today. Seth didn't seem too interested in helping Ricochet there. Kind of just left him for dead. Still no announcement for Fastlane. We know we're getting the match. We know it's going to be at the pay-per-view, but they still have not made that match official. I don't know if it will have a stipulation. So maybe next week we'll get the official announcement. Finn Balor. This actually kind of made me laugh. Finn Balor was in the back. He approached Jey Uso, who kept looking over his shoulder the entire segment. He was completely paranoid. Isn't that what they say in the isn't that one of the Usos catchphrases, or maybe in their theme song? It's not paranoia, it's the Usos. Well, this guy was paranoid. He was looking all over the place because he knows nobody likes him. Balor was very impressed with what Jey did to Kevin Owens in their match earlier, and he winked at him when he said that. Balor said McIntyre might not be a fan of his, but he was. And so was Damian, and so was Dominik, and so was Rhea. And Jey didn't really have a reaction to him saying that Damian was a fan of his, and Dominik was a fan of his. But as soon as he said that Rhea was a fan of his, Jey perked up and said, for real? That got his attention. Now, I don't blame the guy, but it was kind of funny how his reaction completely changed at that point. He said, really, Rhea's a fan of mine. Okay. That got his attention. So Balor assured him that the Judgment Day's door was always open to him. So again, they continue the wooing campaign. They're trying to lure him in. We had Tommaso Ciampa and the Alpha Academy taking on Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci. Ciampa took a hot tag. He worked over Vinci. Otis tagged in. He hit the Caterpillar on Kaiser. Gunther tagged in. Gable tagged in. And now the fight was on. Gunther stuffed a suplex. He put Gable down with a German of his own. He went for a power bomb. Gable, though, countered into an ankle lock. Gunther was able to tag in Vinci, who hit a crossbody block. Gable rolled through, though. He applied an ankle lock that Vinci was able to get out of. Gable hit the Chaos Theory on Vinci. It's become my favorite move, honestly, in WWE. When I watch this guy do the rolling delayed German, especially on a guy bigger than him, and let's be honest, most of the people on this roster are physically bigger than Chad Gable. It never does not pop me when I see him hit that. I've always loved that move, even when he was using it in NXT. And the first time I ever saw him hit that move on Baron Corbin during the first Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, I popped huge. And I've always been a fan of that move. So he had the match won with the Chaos Theory, but Gunther broke up the pin. Moments later, Gable caught Vinci in the ankle lock again. Gunther tried to break it up, but this time Ciampa intercepted him and immediately locked on the Gargano escape, which Michael Cole called the Sicilian stretch. So we had stereo submissions here. Gunther is trapped. He can't help his boy. Vinci is still tied up in the ankle lock. Gable's got the leg grapevine. He's got nowhere to go, and Vinci had no choice but to tap out. And the crowd popped big for Gable's win. Crowd was pretty quiet for a good chunk of this match. When we got down the stretch, especially when Gable and Gunther got in there, they really started to come alive. And the finish was great. Those final 60 seconds or so of the match, I thought were excellent. The whole dueling submission finish, it just looked great. And it was a big win for Chad Gable. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they will go with Gable at Fastlane. You know, he won the match here for his team. You know, what they could do, if they want to stretch things out a little bit, you could have Tommaso Ciampa be the next in line to challenge Gunther. And maybe if Fastlane is Gunther defending against Ciampa, you get a match or two out of that. Circle back around to Gable in a few months. So you could go either way with that. Backstage, Balor told the other Judgment Day members that they had to keep the pressure on Jey Uso. Priest said that the more Jey feels isolated, the more he'll need the Judgment Day. Did no one tell these people that there are cameras that will be broadcasting this to Jey Uso? I guess not. Rhea Ripley agreed. She said that they always come around like Dominik did. Well, I mean, look, if you remember, what ultimately led to Dominik joining the Judgment Day, it was weeks of Rhea Ripley beating him up. I mean, this guy would come out, he was practically abused by this woman. And Rhea would have him in the corner and would have her thighs and her legs wrapped around his fucking neck. I mean, you do that enough times. I mean, obviously, eventually, he's going to have no choice but to just kind of say, well, I guess I have to join with them now. I would have done the same thing. So Dominik said he wished that he could be at ringside for Ripley's match tonight. She said she wished that he could be too, but she would handle her business herself. We had a backstage segment with the NXT Women's Champion, Tiffany Stratton. She was in Adam Pearce's office. She was very annoyed that Becky Lynch was not there and was annoyed that Pearce did not roll out the red carpet for her. Becky finally did show up. Pearce said that he spoke with Shawn Michaels, and they agreed to have the two of them sign a contract tonight ahead of their NXT Women's Championship match tomorrow. Stratton said that she's been nothing but respectful to Becky. She even apologized for calling her a former NXT Women's Champion, which she did in one of her promos a few weeks ago. Even though Becky never held the NXT Women's Championship before, Becky's the only member of that Horsewomen group to never be the NXT Women's Champion. Charlotte had the belt. Sasha had the belt. Bayley had the belt. Becky had that great takeover match with Sasha. I don't remember which show it was, but they had an excellent match. But she never won the belt. But that could change, by the way. We're less than 24 hours away. That may no longer be the case 24 hours from now, because she is challenging for the championship. But she wondered why Becky is coming after her and her title. And Becky admitted that, look, I haven't been paying much attention to you before you showed up here on Raw and you started to use my name. Then I had no choice but to pay attention to you. And she put over Tiffany's athletic ability before calling her dumb as a box of rocks. She said Stratton could be the future, but she would not be if she was only focused on being famous. Becky threatened to make her famous tomorrow when she takes the NXT title away from her, and she signed the contract. Tiffany said she had no problem making her name at Becky's expense, called herself the greatest NXT Women's Champion of all time, and she signed the contract. I thought Tiffany, as far as holding her own here in this segment, she's a total star. I mean, she looks like a star. She carries herself like a star. And I thought that, you know, again, as brief as the segment was, and she wasn't out there in front of the live crowd, which is a whole different beast, I thought that she looked more than ready to be on Monday Night Raw one day. I'm not saying move her now. I'm just saying that when the time comes that she gets called up, she's got that sort of star aura about her. And she is very athletic. So she's still very, if you watch her matches, you could tell she's still very green. She's still very inexperienced. But she's advancing, I think in a pretty quick way. And she's able to pull off some pretty impressive things in the ring as somebody who has an athletic background. So when the time is right, and that's not right now, but when the time is right, she will be a champion on this roster. She may well end up being somebody they build around like Bianca was. Bianca also comes from that athletic background, has certain physical gifts that not everybody has a certain charisma about her. She got called up, and look at what she's done in just the last couple of years. Some of the WrestleMania matches that she's had. Tiffany could be that next person. Main event was Rhea Ripley defending her Women's World Championship against Raquel Rodriguez. This was a payback rematch. This time, though, Dominik banned from ringside. And I foolishly thought, all right, it'll be nice to not have Dominik sticking his nose in, but they didn't say that the other members of the Judgment Day couldn't interfere. So I was half expecting Finn Balor to show up, or JD McDonough, or Damian Priest. Little did I know what we were in for at the end of this match. Raquel immediately dropped Rhea with a clothesline and a power slam. Ripley responded with a missile drop kick and a cannonball from the ring steps, and then a running knee strike. Rodriguez sent Ripley out of the ring and then followed her outside and charged at her and delivered a running boot to the face that sent Rhea backwards into the barricade. She was down as we went into the commercial break. So when we went to commercial, that was the last thing that we saw, was Rhea Ripley was down and Raquel was in control. When we came back, Ripley was back in control. How? I don't know, but she was back in control. They exchanged strikes before dropping each other at the same time with a pair of running boots. Then they exchanged right hands until Rhea kicked her and hit a Northern Lights suplex for 2. Raquel blocked a riptide and hit Snake Eyes, and then hit a big back body drop. Big boot for 2. Raquel went for a corkscrew elbow drop from the middle rope, but Ripley got her feet up. Rhea went to the top. She did the Eddie Guerrero shimmy. She came off, or maybe I should say Dominik now, since he does it every match. And came off the top rope with a frog splash for 2. Ripley tried a cannonball off the apron, but Raquel caught her and held on. She had her upside down, and she whipped her into the side of the announce desk. Just side of her head, right into the side of the desk. Then Raquel she picked her back up in a powerbomb position. And she was struggling a little bit to keep her up. She was trying to get her in the position for the Tejana bomb. She basically had just Rhea's ass was just like pressed up against her face as she's holding her, and she delivered a Tejana bomb on the edge of the ring. So now, as the referee is in the ring checking on Rhea Ripley, a former superstar randomly appears. A wild Nia Jax shows up. And honestly, this did not, at least to my ear on television, get the kind of reaction that you would necessarily expect for like a big return. Not that she was always the biggest star on the show, but she was certainly a big part of the show for a long time and was in the championship mix. And I don't know, it didn't sound like a big booming reaction for the return of this woman. But she delivered a Samoan drop to Raquel on the floor. Raquel eventually was able to beat the count back into the ring, but once she got back inside, Rhea gave her the riptide and pinned her to retain the women's championship. There was no doubt we were not getting a new women's champion here on this show. After the match was over, Rhea's in the ring, and she is celebrating, holding up her women's world title. Nia Jax gets into the ring. So now I'm wondering, I go, wait a minute, Nia's wearing purple here. Like, what does this mean here? Is she going to be her bodyguard? She's kind of the hired gun now, which doesn't really make sense because Rhea Ripley does not need a bodyguard. What the fuck does Rhea Ripley need a hired gun for? She's got Dominik to be her lapdog. But they come face to face in the ring, and Nia gives her a headbutt. So now they establish, okay, they're not together. Gives her a headbutt, gives her a leg drop on the apron, and then a bonsai drop in the corner. And again, the parting shot on this, the final episode of Raw of the Vince McMahon era, is a smiling Nia Jax. Back in the company, back full time for the first time in a year and a half. You don't count her little Royal Rumble cameo earlier this year. Where's Randy Orton when you need him? Didn't Randy Orton give her an RKO once? Actually, I'm kind of surprised. You know, if Randy Orton were still around and hadn't missed all this time, I'm almost certain that Rhea Ripley would have eaten an RKO by now. All the times they had her beating up men and taunting them, you can't touch me, you can't do this to me, you can't do that to me. You know they would have done something where Randy Orton dropped her with an RKO. So yeah, Nia Jax is back. The return that absolutely nobody asked for. I don't know if Nia Jax has been doing much wrestling since she got fired by WWE. She hasn't been working independents, I know that. But as far as training, maybe she's been working at the Performance Center. I don't know. All I know is there were issues at various times with her hurting people in matches. She's very rough around the edges. I mentioned poor Kairi Sane before in that episode they had at the Performance Center during the COVID era. There was one disgusting spot where she just looked completely reckless with this poor girl. It's that kind of shit that got her the reputation that she had. So, for the sake of the people that she's going to be working with, I certainly hope that we don't have a repeat of a lot of that stuff. I don't want to see people getting hurt. I don't want to see reckless shit going on. So we'll see, because now Rhea Ripley has somebody that could challenge her for the women's champion, for the love of God. Fucking Nia Jax against Rhea Ripley for the women's title. But I could see it at Fastlane, and you throw Raquel in there. You could have a three-way match with Raquel, Nia, and Rhea for the women's championship. On the one hand, hey, it is someone different. But again, it's not the person that I was expecting to be in that position. And it's not as if they don't have other women's talent in NXT that they could be either calling up or getting ready to be called up. They have women on the roster right now. I mean, my God, you don't even really have to look to NXT so much as just start trying to use some of the women that you have that aren't doing anything and trying to do something to get them over. I mean, they've done stuff off and on with Candice LeRae. She hasn't gotten over. But we also haven't seen Candice now in feels like months. Start and stop, start and stop. You got Candice, you got Tegan Nox, you've got Mia Yim, who's with the OC and doesn't do anything. Xia Li is just there apparently collecting dust. I hope somebody at least takes a feather duster to her. You go to the WWE roster page on Raw and SmackDown, you'll find probably at least half a dozen different women that you might look at and go, wait a minute, this person's still employed? I had no idea they were still with the company. They have to look outside to Nia Jax. On her first night in, she's putting down the women's world champion. This is their great idea for Rhea Ripley. I don't know. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But I did think that Nia Jax making her grand return at the end of this show was, in many ways, kind of the perfect capper to a show that I thought was overall very dull, very lifeless. Had a couple of good matches on there. I mentioned McIntyre and Woods. The six-man turned, pretty fun there by the end. But it's got to take more than that. It's tough to hold people's attention for 3 hours. And it's like they gave up this week. And I hope it's not just because of football. Because guess what? Football's not going away. You got another 3 or 4 months of this shit. So they got to step up their game. This was not a very good show this week. But we have SmackDown coming up on Friday. Which I will not be live reviewing. I will not be here to watch the show that night. But John Cena is back. He's going to be on the Grayson Waller effect. We'll see if they set up. I think they're going to set up a tag team match for him, possibly at Fastlane. LA Knight wrestles The Miz. I don't know if they're advertising anything new as far as the bloodline goes, but Roman Reigns apparently is still on vacation. He apparently is still on the island of relevancy somewhere. He will not be on SmackDown. Yes, Emma. Emma's another one. I think Emma just got engaged. I believe Emma just got engaged to Madcap Moss. So congrats to her. But yes, Emma's another one that we just don't really see much of. Again, you can find at least half a dozen women who fall under that category. Instead, they look to the outside and they bring in Nia Jax, who is immediately thrust into the main event picture on Monday Night Raw. I mean, if that isn't a Vince McMahon move, I don't know what is. If that doesn't scream Vince McMahon, then Jesus. I don't know what does. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. I call this the Nia Jax effect. 43% thumbs up. Yes, don't forget, all you channel members, you have the Rawful. You do have the Rawful emojis available to you if you want to express yourself. 43% thumbs up, 56.5% thumbs down. Not good. Not good. Look at this, a sea of Rawful in the chat. All right, let's take a look at your super chats. What did you think of this wonderful episode of Raw? The wonderful return of Nia Jax to our television screens. Fire Panda. First, you get paid by WWE, then AEW. Now you are getting paid by the Elite to carry their water and take their side against Punk. Will your hate ever end? Or your arms sore from carrying so much water? Dude, I'm carrying water for everyone every week. Surprised my fucking muscles haven't torn on every arm. They're gonna put me up in a bed next to Aaron Rodgers. The real CSO2, it's truly an end of an era. The last WWE show with the McMahons in full control. Well, we could say the McMahon in full control. You say that plural, like they all have a say in the creative direction of this company. Linda McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon. No, it's McMahon control. We got to be very specific about this. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor says, Monday Night Raw versus Monday Night Football begins. Vince McMahon, Triple H, and Stephanie are going to break out the champagne and the scotch to celebrate the money that is coming to them. Big Armada 1988 buy or sell Sami Zayn versus Prince Nana in a dance-off. I'm going to sell on that. No thank you. Naughty Delicious says, I thought about this and I can't do it. Collision has turned into a second-rate Dynamite. It just can't with the generic wrestlers that they feature. He also says, if Mercedes Moné is medically cleared, I predicted that she will work with Impact. You predicted or you predict? That she will work with Impact Wrestling first before going to AEW. Trinity and Moné need tag team gold. No, they don't. She's bigger than that. She might want to do that. She doesn't need to be winning tag team gold in Impact. What the fuck does that do for her? Mercedes is going to go to Impact and win the Impact tag team title? What? Why? She can go to AEW. She's got plenty of people there to work with. You know, the first match she's going to be in is probably her and Britt Baker. What they did with Saraya when she came in. That's where the money is. I'm sure she'll get a nice contract from Tony Khan. Although she still apparently is under contract, I believe, to New Japan or Bushy Road, whatever. So she might work in AEW initially and not be under contract to them, but I think long term there'll be a deal that gets signed. Sun Goshuaku, your favorite moment of the 7-decade McMahon-owned WWE. Stone Cold's music hitting as Mankind was in the ring wrestling Rock for the WWF Championship on Raw. Austin comes down to the ring to the biggest ovation I've ever heard. Whacks Rock in the head with a chair. Mankind covers, wins the WWF Championship. That was a taped show. And I still get goosebumps when I go back and watch that moment. Frode79 says justice for Deputy Dog. Yeah, Deputy Dog. Poor Deputy Dog. There he is. Deputy Doug got accidentally silenced by one of our mods, who apparently hit the wrong button before. Got timed out, didn't even realize it, but came back pretty quickly, so it's all good. A little bit of an itchy trigger finger there. Austin Saxton, Solomonster, do you remember where you were when 9/11 happened? I do. As I think most people do, who were alive at that time. I was in college. I was in my college dorm. I'd actually just gotten out of the shower. It was a Tuesday, I believe. So I was getting ready to go to class, and I had the television on in my dorm room, and it was on CNN, and they had this breaking news about the first plane that had flown into the World Trade Center. And of course, the first thought that I had was, you know, what an idiot. Why would you fly into the World Trade Center? I mean, how does something like that happen, right? You think it's an accident, and somehow they got off course. You don't, at that time, immediately your mind doesn't go to, oh, it's a terrorist attack. Today, it probably would. Back then, we weren't thinking about that. And then I got dressed, I went to class. When I got into the building, into the lobby, in the lobby, they had a flat panel television that was mounted on the wall. And I saw there was a crowd of people just standing around watching it. And I'm like, what are they watching? Maybe they're watching the same thing that I was. But then I saw what was going on at that point. I think by that point, the second plane had hit. And so then you knew something was obviously going on here. So everybody was just kind of in a shocked state of mind. And I remember I went into classroom and sat down, and everyone's sitting down, and everyone's talking to each other, and the professor comes in and basically just says, yeah, we're not doing this, because his sister was working in one of the towers. So of course his mind was just not on teaching a class. So he dismissed us.
Look, everyone, it's Samoa BRO.
And we all just left. And after that, honestly, I know I called my family, but I don't really have any specific memories for the rest of the day up until like the evening. So I remember that initial period. I think I was just glued to the TV after that, like everybody else. But I remember, I will always remember thinking, like, man, what an idiot. Flying into one of the Trade Center towers, like, how does that happen? How do you get blown off course and accidentally fly into one of these gigantic towers? And then it was pretty clear that that was no accident, unfortunately. Rodimus Prime, after the day I've had, I needed a good laugh after seeing Nia Jax's return. Naughty Delicious says, I doubt this will happen, but I bet Kairi Sane may end up texting Kenny Omega for any openings in AEW. Well, Kenny does love his Joshi wrestling. I'm sure he would welcome her with open arms. Mr. Backshot's over here with $2. Trick is top 3 most charismatic guys in the industry. Talking about Trick Williams from NXT. I don't know if I'd say that. I wouldn't go that far. He's not top 3 yet, but he's definitely entertaining, and he's going to be a big star. You know, even his in-ring work is progressing nicely. That match he had with Ilya Dragunov. Look, Trick held his own in there, but that was mostly Dragunov. I mean, he made that guy look like $1 million. Like that to me is one of the most impressive matches that he's ever had. For all the matches he's had with other people and the matches with Walter, like that one to me impressed me the most. Because against Walter, you expect those two to go in there and have a fantastic match. But for him to go in there with someone like Trick Williams and make him look like an equal, and the crowd was like so invested in that match, you would think that Trick Williams was a main eventer now. And he's not. He's not ready for that yet. But Dragunov made him look like a main event player in that match. It was incredible. Arabian Night 2000, WWE's women's depth is awful. AEW did steal a lot of their good workers. How do you fix it? Would another Mae Young Classic help introduce new women? You don't need that, though. Like, I agree with you, but you don't need a Mae Young Classic. They have, the talent is there. The talent pool is there to pull from. It just boils down to how you book them. What do you do with them? Do you have interesting stories that you can come up with for them? They don't have that. You don't need to have a tournament and start bringing people in from the outside. Mr. AJ Allday. Thank God Bianca is on SmackDown and away from Nia. Think she can get her up for the KOD? She did with Piper Niven. I mean, look, the people popped huge for that. Arabian Knight says Gable should win the title like Angle did at Unforgiven in 01 and tap out Gunther like Austin did and have his family come into the ring and celebrate. It's going to be a great moment. Family's going to be there. I don't know if they'll get in the ring, but it's going to be a great moment when it finally happens. The Winston Slip, Warrior versus Honky Tonk for the Intercontinental title. The best short match ever. Yeah, what did it go? 30 seconds? Crowd went nuts in Madison Square Garden that night. Retro KOH, I worry that Riddle is going to wind up being a Dark Side of the Ring episode someday. At the rate he's going, it wouldn't surprise me. Aaron Rodgers pulling a CM Punk at All Out 2022. Says 27 at 27. 27 at 27 also says buy, sell, rent. Best AEW feud. Punk against MJF. Page against Kenny. Britt Baker against Thunder Rosa. Punk and MJF. Gonna buy on that. And I would say, honestly, I mean, for the matches they had, I might go Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. Page and Kenny. It was good. Wasn't my favorite Kenny Omega feud. Retro KOH, can we get a Solomonster Elite Waterboy Super Chat? I don't know. You have to submit some ideas for new Super Chats, and I will consider them. Zachariah Sitchin with the 1999. What is your top 5 factions in WWE during the McMahon era? And also, who in WWE could pull off the current title reign that Roman is on? Or was it always going to be Roman and no one else? I mean, anybody can pull it off. Literally anybody can pull it off. It's just a matter of who they book and how strongly they book that person. Gunther could have the run that Roman Reigns is on. I mean, he's already become the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. He was the NXT United Kingdom Champion for like 870 days or something like that. Could Gunther have pulled off a long title reign like Roman has as WWE Champion? Of course. As long as they book him strong. As far as like top 5 factions, I'm a Hart Foundation guy. Love the Hart Foundation. Love the Shield. Honestly, the Shield may be my all-time favorite faction in WWE. So yeah, I would go. I'm not even ranking them now. Shield, Hart Foundation. I mean, do you count the Heenan family? Technically, would you consider them a faction? I feel like they'd have to be on that list somewhere. Browser. Remembered Raw the last 10 minutes. I wish I forgot. Man, if you only tuned into Raw in the last 10 minutes and that's what you saw, holy shit. What must you have been thinking when he tuned in and saw what he saw? Amazing. All right, well, the goal tonight for Be the Booker was 400. And we are currently at 418, so I thank you for that. And let us go ahead and be the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the Booker.
You know, Be the Booker has worked in mysterious ways. Somebody will appear on television, and then they'll suddenly appear and be the Booker. Now, you know that Nia and her hole are in here, because we've landed on her occasionally. So wouldn't that be something? If we landed on Nia's hole. For some of you in the chat, that might be the most exciting part of your night. All right, here we go. We'll start with the men. Be the Booker. We start with The Miz. It is The Mid, everybody. I mean The Miz. The Miz. Taking on The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. I mean, come on. You knew I had to give Bray the bell. I'm not going to give Bray the buzzer. That would be inappropriate. Plus, I mean, it's The Fiend, so The Fiend would kill him. I don't think we ever got to see The Fiend and The Miz, right? Wasn't it Funhouse Bray? I think it was Funhouse Bray wrestled The Miz on that pay-per-view. Was it the December pay-per-view a few years ago? Still can't believe he's gone. All right, here we go. Ladies, Be the Booker. Who, oh, who will we land on? Sensational Sherry. Sherry Martel, one of the all-time greats. Does not get her just due. Sherry, one-on-one. Well, that's an interesting match. Gigi Dolan and Sensational Sherry. Intrigued by that match. I have not been very impressed by some of the recent matches I've seen from Gigi Dolan in NXT. I don't know what's going on there, but Gigi and Sherry, I give that the bell. I'd like to see how that match turns out. And let's cap things off here with Too Cool, Grandmaster Sexy. You got to say it the right way. It's not Grandmaster Sexy. It's Grandmaster Sexy and Scotty 2 Hotty, who were just over like crazy back during that 2000 period. Almost everybody was over back then. It's not like it is today, where some people are over, some people are not. Back then, almost everybody was over. Too Cool against the Mega Maniacs, Macho Man Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. It's the match I never knew I needed to see. But now I'm kind of sad we never got to see it. You think they would have danced with them when the match was over? You think they could have convinced the Warrior to actually dance? Do that whole like Rikishi dance with them when the match was over? Because Macho Man, I'm sure Macho Man had more soul than anybody. Macho Man would dance. I think Warrior could have brought himself to dance. Yeah, that is true. We had unfortunately, a lot of dead wrestlers in this installment. Savage, Warrior, Brian Christopher, Bray, Sherry, all gone. All gone. It's like going back and watching some of those older WrestleManias, and it's hard sometimes, or even some of the old Royal Rumble matches, and it's hard to not like start counting and like, okay, who's still here, who's not, and you realize who's not. It's not like they would have been that old today, and it's like, shit. You know, it's depressing. Honestly, it's depressing to go back and watch. Is my coffee still hot? I don't drink coffee. I think coffee is disgusting. Am I going to get Mortal Kombat 1? I have not heard too much about it, honestly. I've been kind of out of the loop on that. I wanted to download Street Fighter 6, which I think came out in like June. I downloaded a demo, which seemed pretty cool. But I just never got around to playing it. But if enough people recommend it, I might give it a shot. 'Cause I haven't played a Street Fighter game in years. But that one, when I first saw the trailer for it, that one looked pretty good. All right, so again, this was a very ho-hum episode of Raw. Yeah, overall, I just thought the show was a fucking bore tonight. Some good things on there to pick apart. The ending notwithstanding, I mean, even if Nia hadn't shown up, my opinion on the show would have been the same. Her showing up at the end was just like the cherry on the shit sundae. But we'll see. Maybe she'll prove me wrong. Maybe Nia Jax has improved. Maybe when the bell rings, we'll see a different Nia Jax. I'm going to say no, but we'll see. She's been gone long enough. I would hope that she kind of worked off any ring rust, stepped up her game. Most importantly, hopefully nobody gets hurt in the process. If you're Kairi Sane, it's fucking hilarious to me that at a time when Kairi is being talked about for a return, it's like almost like Nia Jax, like her sonar went off. Like, oh, she's coming back. I must come back too. And I don't know if they'll end up on the same brand. With any luck, they'll end up with Kairi on SmackDown. Because that's where Asuka and Io are. Put Kairi on SmackDown. Let Nia stay on Raw. Kairi on SmackDown. Keep them apart. That'll be the best way to handle that situation. Wednesday night, I'm going to be back with you live. There's only 2 live streams this week. This is one of them. Wednesday night's the next one. The final one for this week. That'll be Dynamite, which is going to be the finals of the Grand Slam Eliminators. Samoa Joe, one-on-one with Roderick Strong. Who's going on to Grand Slam next Wednesday to challenge MJF at Arthur Ashe for the AEW World Title? Roddy gets in the ring with the man who broke his neck. I saw the poster that they released on social media for the match, which actually looks very badass. You got Joe on one side, Roddy on the other in his neck brace. And then these steps going up to like a throne upon which MJF is sitting. It's actually a pretty badass poster. I wish I would have saved it. I would have shown it to you. But anyway, I don't have the other matches in front of me, but that's the key match on Wednesday. So we'll get some more clarity on Grand Slam. And if you missed it, episode 825 of the Sound Off went up yesterday. Covered a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously more CM Punk. Always going to be fallout when it comes to CM Punk. Talked about that. Talked about the death of General Adnan. Very interesting story as far as Andre the Giant once being threatened by Saddam Hussein. There's a story I bet you didn't think you would hear about this week. Review of the new Kurt Angle the not so new Kurt Angle documentary, which is still excellent, on Peacock, and a bunch of other stuff as well. So, and actually, one of the segments is now up on the channel, and I would urge all of you to go check it out and chime in the comments section, because I took a few minutes to book the early card for WrestleMania 40. So I want to get your thoughts on that, and if there's any other matches you'd like to see, people you'd like to see, chime in the comments section. Let me know how you would book WrestleMania 40. We're still 7 months out. But you can go ahead and chime in, let your voice be heard. Would love to hear from you guys. All right, I'm out. Be well. Stay safe. Thank you for the support tonight. And we'll come back on Wednesday. Do it all over again for AEW Dynamite right here on the Solomonster Sounds Off. Sub, if you're not already sub. We're getting close to 75K. I don't know if we can do it this week. We might have to hold off until next week. But if we can get there this week, that would be great. I'll see you guys Wednesday.